Thank you, Chris, for joining us to Truvon Talks today. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us, nerdy counselors.
No, thanks for having me. Excited to talk with you both.
Yeah, so tell us about your journey into fitness. What spurred you into this awesome fitness world?
No, so that's a loaded question, and so many different layers and stuff to it. But yeah, again, thanks for having me on. Wow, to get into that. So in being raised, I was heavily involved in martial arts. So I grew up. My father was a martial arts instructor, and to kind of say that really undermines his significance and to what he means to the martial arts world, as he's kind of his own living legend in his own right. But ultimately, where my best friends, I was going to grade school and stuff with, they played buddy league basketball and t-ball and all these things. I was getting picked up from school, and I spent my evenings in a martial arts studio or a dojo. So I would have my homework with me. I'd sit down, I'd get something to eat after school, kind of sitting out in the waiting area and off to the side in the office while classes were going on all evening, doing my homework. Then I'd have my own class, and my mom would come pick me up for dinner. We'd go home, and those were my weekdays. So I grew up in martial arts, and within martial arts, I wasn't the most athletic, God-gifted athletic kid. But I think growing up in martial arts, it allowed me to develop a lot of different physical and mental. We'll get into those, the physical and psychological attributes. But it allowed me to develop my proprioception, my balance, my timing, and kind of, start to at least, even though I felt like my potential was low as, a natural athlete, at least started to develop those characteristics, those physical characteristics. Ultimately, whenever I hit 8th grade, I had no experience playing basketball, and that was like my friend's favorite sport, So I knew of it through them. On occasion, I'd play pickup basketball with them if they needed like an extra person. So my 8th grade year, I kind of hit puberty. I was like the big kid for the first year. I kind of hit puberty and adolescence a little sooner than what my friends did. And with that was kind of the tall and big kid there for like a year. They needed some more people to come out and try out and play on the basketball team my 8th grade year. So they talked me into it. It's like, Chris, it's like, yeah, I don't play basketball. I'm not very good. I shoot two-handed. I'm awkward and stuff like that. So anyway, ultimately, I ended up playing, and I stood underneath the rim, and if I got the ball, I had specific instructions: give it to somebody else that knew what to do with it. You get the ball for us, and give it back to your guards. But ultimately, in playing, I fell in love with playing basketball, and even though I only scored 2 points the entire year, again, I was really kind of awkward and goofy out there because I hadn't ever played organized basketball before. I fell in love with it, and I always have a love for martial arts, and that's kind of what I was raised on. But basketball, I guess, was my first love after I discovered it. So I was that kid, I carried around my basketball everywhere. I had like, positive affirmations and quotes written on my basketball, and, these little things, and I carried it around, slept with it and dribbled it and shot it and all that stuff. Ultimately, long story short, through some skills academies and so much just, focused effort, commitment on my own, was ultimately became good enough to receive some Division I scholarships, went on to Ohio University to play basketball for a couple of years. And I think I was able to, and through that, I got into fitness, and I'm kind of getting to that part. But through my martial arts upbringing, again, all of those physical and just the mental attributes that I was able to develop as a martial artist growing up, I think it set me up to pick up basketball at a much quicker, more exponentially faster rate than what the average person was. So even though I only played my first year playing organized basketball was my 8th grade year, and all my friends had so many more years ahead of me doing that, I think I was able to pick those things up quicker. But ultimately, getting to college, my first year in practice, I broke my ankle. So here's where I started getting into the fitness training of it. And I'll back up just a little bit. So like my first weightlifting experience, now it's, one of the things that I'm ultra passionate about as a strength and conditioning coach. My first weightlifting experience wasn't in high school. We just played ball, and we were very conditioned, but in our high school program, we didn't really have a basketball team. We didn't have a weightlifting resistance training program. So my first weightlifting experience in college with our team, our strength and conditioning coach, us guys on a bench press, a barbell bench press, our coach said, hey, you got 5 sets of 5 reps barbell bench press, build up from the lightest set to your heaviest 5. So I had no idea what an even jump off point was for me. I mean, that's probably the bars where I needed to start at the 45-pound Olympic barbell, but I had no idea. So I was paired with an upperclassman, Jerome. He looks at me, he's like, okay, man, so what do you want to start with? I mean, he's like a 6'8", grown man of a, guard or of a player, super strong, whatever. He's one of our post players. So, he slaps on a 45-pound plate on each side, as, most guys often do. Oh, just throw the plate on there and dive and let that be your jump off point. It's like, what do you want? I was like, I don't know. I don't have any experience in this exercise. I have no idea what my strength is or whatever. It's like, well, let's just start with this, climb under the bar and it's, lift you off and, see what you got. So I get up underneath the bench, grab the bar, and he lifts, gives me a big lift off, and I'm locked out, trying to stabilize this barbell. And he's like, all right, let's go. So I start to lower down the barbell to my chest for the bench press and go to push and nothing. I'm pinned underneath this barbell with a 45-pound plate on each side. It's 135 pounds total, something that I can, rep out for I don't even know what. I mean, several reps. But so my first weightlifting experience and how I got into fitness ultimately was getting pinned underneath a barbell in strength and conditioning for our basketball, team training. So he lifts it off. I think I end up doing 4 more sets of 5 reps with something like 80 pounds on the bar or something. So that was my first experience in strength conditioning and weightlifting, getting pinned underneath this barbell. There goes my ego, and get laughed at for the whole rest of the year. So that same year, I come down on my ankle, break my ankle. Medical redshirted. I can't play basketball, for the rest of the season. I have limited time with my team as a medical redshirt, but I have all this additional time with my strength and conditioning coach. So that was just kind of the rule. So, and just wanting to stay active, and even though I couldn't play, I was trying to rehab and do what I could to myself physically. So something about the whole experience that first year in college with my team and with my strength and conditioning coach, with getting pinned underneath the barbell and just being stuck and not wanting to feel like that again, with wanting to recover and rebound from my broken ankle, I started spending more and more time with my strength and conditioning coach, kind of shadowing, just kind of hanging out, lingering around, in between classes and stuff, just to kill time, and just watching from the distance. And that kind of led into me shadowing and assisting, and then ultimately, I became a big science dork and wanted to learn more about the exercise physiology and the science behind why the body adapts and trains and increases performance by virtue of fitness programming, nutrition, lifestyle modification, all those different things. So ultimately, I started off as a art major, Spanish minor, and transitioned into finishing undergrad with in exercise physiology, my bachelor's of science, and then kinesiology, and my master's of science. Still Spanish minor, but changed from art. So yeah, I and still have such an appreciation for art and music and all those different things. And that's just where people see me as a bearded, tattooed, bald, strength and muscle-bound strength and conditioning coach or fitness professional. I'm a big softie and love my the softer finesse side of life and stuff too, and have such a great appreciation for art and music and some of those finer things. That is my short version of of the answer to your question of how I got involved in the fitness. So ultimately, in summary, I get pinned underneath a barbell, I break my ankle, and somewhere along the lines, something poked me and sparked this interest and intrigue in fitness and wellness. But ultimately, it came from a more of an athletic sports performance realm. And then that's, as I developed and grew, I just found such a fulfillment in positively impacting people's lives through fitness and wellness. And within that, I mean, not just the physical adaptations and attributes that come with that, but just all of the psychological and mental improvements that go along. And fitness is such a transformation from the outside in, but it's really from the inside out that's the most prominent. And it's such a mental and psychological commitment and adaptation. And as you shine from the inside out, versus just what people see from the outside, looking in with the physical adaptation.
Yeah. Rachel I'll let Rachel chime in, Chris, and ask.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. That's awesome. I love the growth mindset aspect you have where, you could have chosen to just be embarrassed and shut down and throw in the towel, but you didn't,
Yeah,
right? You got
well,
really
again,
interested.
it goes back to again to my martial arts upbringing. And the older I get, the more I realize, all of those installments that and life lessons that came along with my martial arts upbringing. And what a cool thing it was for my dad to be that coach and stuff also. But when we were at home, that was my dad. Or well, when we were in the martial arts studio, the dojo, on the training floor, that was my martial arts instructor. That was my sensei, my master, Mr. Lane, that was my father. But when we were off that, my dad was still very much my dad, and but not just to give all credit to him, but to both my parents for my upbringing. I pull so much from both of them. And the older you get, you start to see yourself in the mirror like, oh my gosh, I look or I sound like my dad or my mom or all those different things. Especially now for me being a father of a 14-year-old. So the older you get, like, oh my gosh, I'm turning into my parents. Stop that.
Right.
But it's not a bad thing. It's funny when you catch yourself, sounding or looking like them or whatever. It's like, well, those are my parents.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about what it is you do now, in your career and what your specialty is.
Yeah, so blessed to do all that I do full time within fitness and wellness. I was an independent contractor now. I kind of came up in corporate fitness and wellness coordination and direction at Marshall University. Since leaving there, almost 4 years, going on 4 years ago, I do everything that I do as an independent contractor with general fitness, personal training, athlete sports performance, diet, nutrition, lifestyle modification, restorative therapy, mentorship, consultation for businesses, for facility build outs. So just really blessed that I've had the opportunities that I've had to make myself as well-rounded as possible. And it's a blessing and a curse when you love to do all these different things and you enjoy all these different realms. I mean, it's all within the global, confinement of fitness and wellness, but it's easy to spread yourself too thin because you'll always remain flattered that someone approaches you for help. Sometimes it's solicited or uncompensated help, but still, I mean, if you have information or you can maybe make some sort of impact just with a little bit of knowledge or education for someone, I find it's too hard for me to shut that off and say, I'm sorry, I'm not on the clock for that. So I'm always on the clock, but it's because you love something so much and you're so passionate about it. It's tough to punch out, for those things. So sometimes I kind of have to draw the line, not because of some sort of compensation issue, but because I want to give that time to my family. It's time for me to be a dad and be a husband and some of those things. So I need to close the laptop, turn off the computer, silence my notifications or something like that, and get back to those people when I can.
Yeah. Rachel, I think I'm on my question now. Sorry for the delay.
You're all right.
Okay, well, you answered this one. So a lot of times, when we're working with clients, Chris, there's this desire to be healthier and feel better about self and self-image. And, there's a lot of shame around having too much weight or being too little weight in our mental health world. So what do you recommend for our listeners about how do you overcome these feelings of inadequacy or about getting to the gym and getting a trainer like you or Amy, or what do you suggest they do mentally to help with that?
Well, for all of us, and what I think as us individually need to remind ourselves of is all of us go through these things. Even myself, as a fitness professional, as comfortable as I am in my own skin and at this stage of my life and career and things like that, we can all do better. And that's fine. I mean, but there's got to be a balance and things too. And everybody, who based on the way they're raised, what's going on in their lives right now, the hurdles and struggles that they have to overcome, all, perception's reality. And so everybody's dealing with their own demons and their own monsters. So that said, we can all do better. And what's great is, like self, and you mentioned Amy, and there's so many great fitness professionals here in our area that you can do live one-on-one sessions with, and then remotely or virtually online as well. So there's an abundance of information. Now I say there's abundance of information. Not all information is is great information. But that said, it's about empowering yourself and to be committed. You don't have to be perfect, just stay consistent and committed. But in addressing those selves, when you look in the mirror, we're always going to be our own worst critic. But we can all do better, and we don't have to be perfect. Again, just be consistent, trust the process, stay the course. And if you're confused about where to start or how to start, that's where you can reach out to a professional for anything. I mean, hey, I get overwhelmed when I step outside in the springtime and look at my yard for landscaping and trying to recover my lawn and grass and stuff like that. Am I the expert in that? No. So hire an expert, hire a professional to at least get you started, get you back into routine, and give you some sound advice and science and working knowledge behind some of those things. And it's always a jump off point, and then snowball it, build the momentum and track your progress. And it's okay to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I mean, just because you backslide, and this is something actually that Amy had taught me years ago. And it's just one of those moments in your life that you just, I kind of remember a conversation. But I was going through, I had so much going on at the time. And in my own fitness, training, I'm not competing or doing anything, at this time, and haven't for years. But it doesn't mean that I don't compete against my previous self from the previous week or the month or the previous year, whether it's, strength or performance, body composition, whatever it is. I have my own personal goals and things as well. But I was just kind of in a rut in my own training. And for us, as fitness professionals, we have to walk the walk. And I'm a firm believer in leading by example. So if I'm slacking, or I allow myself, whether it be my physique, my performance, just how I care for myself, my body language, my energy, all of those different things, if those things are slacking, I can't expect people or clients, or those around me or whatever, to feed off, my energy. I'm taking away from them when I should be, as a fitness professional and a motivator, be motivating them. So if I'm unmotivated, that wreaks, havoc into my relationships, especially with my clientele. So I have to continue to serve and lead by example for them. Again, being our own worst critics, sometimes us as fitness professionals, we need that. But Amy, getting back to this conversation, Amy said, so what's your goals and stuff right now? It's like, man, these are my goals, but I haven't really been able to get anywhere. I'm just kind of maintaining. She's like, you know what, Chris, it's okay if you have all of these different things going on, that compartments of your life, you can just maintain, and maintenance is a goal that is succeeding. So, if you're able to take a couple of steps forward and you're just maintaining, or again, it's like playing a board game or something, 2 steps forward, 1 turn, take 1 step back, But progress is progress as you track it, not just, day to day, week to week, but over the term of your life, days, months, years, and that is ultimately success. So reminding yourself of your accomplishments, revisiting, tracking those things and saying, hey, I'm here. I may have been here for a little bit, but look at all this distance where I came from to get to this point. And that's ultimately, you got to remind yourself that you are what you have ultimately, just accomplished or whatever, but that's not ultimately true. It's just our short-term memory. Remember where you came from, give yourself credit where credit is due, and know that there are fitness professionals and friends, family, people like that, your support system, that are there to encourage you and support you. And you've got to acknowledge it's time, when it's time to lean on them for that support to get remotivated.
Yeah. Rachel, did you want to chime in?
Well, it sounds like what you're saying, for anyone who's struggling with body image or getting motivated, is to be less harsh on themselves, be less critical, and to recognize that progress is progress, that it's not going to be this perfect straight line always going up. You might have moments where you feel like you're regressing, but that doesn't mean that you won't jump back up and see progress again in the future.
Exactly. It's a roller coaster. It's a stock market or whatever. But so long as that line continues to inch up, and it's not, there's never a straight line between A and B in life. And I think anybody who's went through any kind of struggle or whatever, or lived, at least into their adulthood, understands that firmly. But we continue to, what's unrealistic is we continue to expect it to be that, in some point in time or whatever. Never a best time to do anything, but ultimately control what you can control. If you're going through college or in a change of job, any kind of struggle, a divorce, end of a relationship, just a move across country, whatever it may be, ultimately you have to prioritize things, and that list of priority can shift on any given day or any given week. But there's never a perfect time to accomplish these milestones within life or whatever. But you just got to go for it sometimes. And it's those days that you struggle the hardest that you pull yourself through, that you've got to dig deep, and the character building, attributes that come out of those things. Like, are you going to let this make you or break you? And again, it's okay to have those days where you're like, you know what, I'm just going to sit in this chair and I'm going to take a break. I need a mental break. I need a physical break. And that's fine. So long as the days that you're making progress and you're attacking and moving forward and progressing and holding yourself accountable, or surrounding yourself with your support system, your coaches, your families, your friends, those people like that, on those days that you have low motivation, that they can re-energize you, bring you back up. And again, that can come from a physical recharge, a mental recharge, a spiritual recharge, all of the above. But get recharged however you best do it, and to get back up on the horse and ride out. It's okay to fall off as long as you get up, dust yourself off, and get back on. But we all go through it. And if we're talking specifically about fitness and wellness, even us as fitness professionals, we go through that. We look in the mirror and we are very critical of ourselves, this or that or whatever. And somebody will look at you like, oh, what are you talking about? Da, da, da. It's like, no, but perception is reality. I say that a lot, and someone's individual perception of something or whatever, if that's how they perceive it and that's how they're interpreting it or whatever, then that's their reality, and that perception could be their struggle. So the trick is, how do we control what we can control? Let go of the things that you can't control. Control what you can control. Are you going to exercise today? What is your diet going to consist of? How's your hydration going to do? How are you going to manage your time so you can get in bed, to achieve, 6 or 8 hours of sleep? For some reason, something goes sideways because life happens at any given time or whatever. That's okay. Try to correct it the next day or as soon as you can to get back into, and ultimately all things are just a quality of life. Improve your quality of life, being a good mental and physical headspace, a balance of all those things. And that's overall health. Despite what we want the number on the scale to say, or how we want to look in, our summer swimsuit, or what we want to look like on our wedding day, or how I want to dress for this job interview, or whatever it may be, control what you can control, do your best, and then be happy with the result.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. Improving quality of life. It's so important.
And yeah, regardless of what our goals may be, and I think we would all be kidding ourselves if we didn't want to look in the mirror and feel like we look great naked for whatever reason. Everything has a kind of a sex appeal, but we all have our different goals, whether it's performance based or body composition, aesthetic based or whatever. But ultimately, it's the quality of life and our overall health, our ability not to just be here on this earth, but be healthy and enjoy our time here, be able to explore and go out and conceive and meet people and have relationships and grow our networks and absorb what this world has to offer before it's our time to move on. And having a healthy quality of life to be able to do that to its full potential is really the bottom line here. And it's easy to sometimes overlook and get caught up in some of the other things, the vanity of it all.
Chris, do you think that if people would step in the door to fitness or go outside and just maybe start walking, that their mood would improve? Do you think that fitness improves someone's self-esteem, their mood, or their decreases their anxiety? Or you're you said exercise. What did you say? Exercise?
Yeah, exercise physiologist. So it's not that I think, it's scientifically proven. So, and you use a really simple, basic example. It's almost so simple that it seems trivial and silly. Like, I just had lunch and my belly's full and I'm kind of lethargic midday or whatever. I'm just going to kind of sit here and, maybe play a game on my phone or something like that while I'm on my lunch break. But instead of accepting that just kind of downtime, that kind of shutdown period, to get up and go outside, to get, UV and Blu-ray light from the sun, to take a walk, to turn over our metabolism, so that energy, that food that we're eating, isn't weighing us down and making us lethargic, but we're actually sparking the metabolism to speed it up, because food is energy. Food is calories. Calories is our energy source. So to spark that metabolism, get that metabolic fire burning, and then have that fuel be, pushed through our body as energy, helps us in that very simple, trivial situation. So doing what we need to do instead of what we want to do sometimes is going to make us feel better. You know what I mean? I didn't want to sit down and bang out all my taxes here. You know, it gave me anxiety to sit down there, organize and do all the math and the spreadsheets and to turn that into my accountant. And I put it off and I procrastinated just like, you know, we do as human beings. Yeah, we're not perfect. We all have our flaws. We all do, you know, do some of these things or whatever, but I procrastinated. But ultimately, you know, I made myself sit down and do it. And at the back end of it, I had such a sense of relief. I'm done. I'm free. Da, da, da. So I have to mess with it for another year. That's just one, again, of infinite examples that all of us go through each day with something, you know, on some sort of different level. So we procrastinate or put it off, or we do what we feel like we do what we want to do versus doing what we need to do. But ultimately, some of those times, if we just do what we need to do, we feel even better than accepting what our current state is, which would be, you know, sit down in this chair and be, you know, belly full playing a video game instead of, you know, getting up and getting outside and get our metabolism going, receiving some UV, getting some outdoor, getting some fresh air or whatever, and then feeling better as a result of accomplishing that or checking that box off.
Does people's relationship with food, do you notice there's a relationship with food when you work with clients, like having an emotional tie to it? Like,
well, it's more often than not, it becomes stress eating. It's comfort food related. So, you know, yeah. So, you know, in our area, you know, we have our comfort food. We're very fried food oriented. I mean, from the chicken and mashed potatoes, and just kind of the down south home cooking and that type of. But again, that's why West Virginia is always one of the top 3, top 5 most obese states, highest in cardiovascular disease, all those different things. And it's not necessarily just because of the food, but it's the food paired with the inactivity or the sedentary state of of all those different things. So it's eating and it's sitting. And it's funny that you use that example of, you know, well, what if you just get outside and you go for a walk? The benefits, as silly, as trivial, and as easy as that seems to be, to make a mental decision. So, you know what, I'm not going to sit here. I'm going to get up, I'm going to walk out the door and take a little walk and come right back, 20, 30 minutes of my life. But the mental and physiological benefits of just making that simple decision to choose to spend your time doing that versus just sitting in a chair, which is probably what you would want to do at first after eating a full meal. Getting into a routine of that, then it starts to become, I don't want to sit here, man. I got to get up and I got to get outside, because you start to miss it. Yeah. It's just like any routine, building momentum and sticking to a routine or whatever, you start to miss it. So anybody, and you can speak to this, I mean, if you've been on vacation or been sick, you know, and you've been out of the gym or out of your exercise wellness routine for a week or two, you can't wait to kind of get back to it. Like, man, I've got to get recharged. And so it becomes, you know, part of your lifestyle, part of your routine, establishing those routines, breaking bad habits, establishing new habits, getting into and changing, you know, either starting a new routine or changing a routine. That's where the challenge is. But anything worth doing is worth going through the struggle and the challenge of doing. Otherwise, if it were that easy, everybody would, you know, look and feel how they want to. So anything worth doing is always going to be a challenge.
I want to give you the opportunity to get on a soapbox if you have one. What's something you're really passionate about that you wish more people knew? Here's your chance. Share it with the world.
I mean, I would usually answer that question, but since we're on a, you know, kind of a fitness and wellness themed podcast, I mean, that is my passion. I mean, if I were a billionaire, I would still do all the things that I do for the love of, because I'm that passionate about it. What I'm not able to kind of reveal to the extent of what I like to on social media or, you know, or in this industry is just how passionate I am about my family, my wife, my son. Beyond that, noble, you know, family nod, giving them all of their due respect, because they're my biggest fans. They support me and they do so much for me to allow me to do what I enjoy doing. So they sacrifice so much for me to, and as my cheerleaders and as my support group for myself and my own training and fitness journey, and as well as, you know, supplying that. But, you know, probably to answer your question in line with what you're looking for me to get at, I wish I had more. Let me back that up, because I'm kind of getting into, you know, the cop out of wishing. I should manage my time a little better and slide that scale a little more over to get back into some of the other things that I'm passionate about before I got into fitness, which was, you know, music and art. I love to freehand draw with, you know, leads, crayons, colored pencils. I love to write music. When I say write music, I mean not instrumental, but lyrics. And I very much enjoy songwriting. I'm a huge hip hop and rap fan. I had at one point in time, in between grad school or in between undergrad and grad school, moved to Las Vegas and got into rap battle and things like that. This is back when Eminem was big and 8 Mile was hot or whatever. That may or may not.
You got to rap for us now, Chris.
So, we'll have to do a second podcast on that. Well, but if I had time, I would get back into production and visiting some of my friends who have studios and just playing around with music and beats and instrumentals, and the networking that comes along with that and stuff again. So like I said, I was an art major and part of that, but I have such a love for art and music in particular. So I keep telling myself, this year I'm going to shift some time and start getting back into some of those things. But it's tough because I love fitness and wellness equally as much. I mean, I love to train. I love being involved. I love being in the gym and on the fitness floor each day. I love consulting with my clients and athletes, traveling around, doing workshops, and before pandemic hit, a good 6, 8, 10 times a year, I would travel to different camps, conferences, and present, educate, workshop. Now, whether that was speaking on a topic, anything from fitness or therapy or wellness or diet, nutrition, to being, on the fitness floor, presenting a piece of equipment, a sandbag, an inertia wave, blaze pop. I mean, all these different companies that I'm blessed to kind of partner with and teach and promote and demonstrate, workshop their equipment and training concepts. So as pandemic lifts, I'm excited later on this year to start getting back into that traveling circuit. And again, that's been a blessing too for me to travel, but still come back here to West Virginia, Southern Ohio, tri-state area, where my family is, and cost of living is a lot cheaper or whatever. So we don't have to live in New York City or Chicago, do some of these things. I can still travel and scratch that itch out in the big wide open world, but still come back home to be very grounded here with my family and friends and my wife and my own immediate family be here as well, our parents and brothers, sisters, so on and so forth.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Sounds like you're striving to achieve some balance in your life. So when we talk about improving quality, balance is an important part of that.
It is. And that's probably my biggest struggle is balance. It's like, I'm quick to say, and I even started to say it, on camera here, I wish I had this. Well, I can control that, right? So it's not a wish. It's just a matter of if I'm going to put enough stock into it and, adjust my day. But because when you're passionate about so many different things, it's sometimes to, draw the line and say, okay, I've fulfilled my time of this, for the day or for the week. Now I want to get some of this. And that line gets very, very blurred for me very easily. Not even blurred, but just it disappears sometimes.
Yeah, that's honest.
So control what I can control, which is my time management, and that's my biggest hurdle. And it has been for most of my adult and professional life. It's just my time management. You be able to get everything in and knowing when to stop one thing and start the other, or just shut it down or open it back up completely.
Yeah, and maybe incorporating that playtime, your music, your art, as part of your weekly regimen, like something, because that's so important too. You mentioned that's that playtime. Yeah,
and I was just to touch on it. Part of this venture that I was part of, the concept, the design, the build out, the opening, and then the initial start of growing the business was Boombox Academy. Boombox Academy was part of an overall 20,000 square foot fitness, therapy, and sports complex in Proctorville, Ohio. Still open, no longer with them, but part of the concept of Boombox and the business model behind it all was really kind of a nod of things that I was ultra passionate about. I'm an 80s baby, the whole Boombox concept was very musically and artistically pop culture driven as far as the decor and some of the themes and the design, the color palette, the branding, all those different things. But then also the fitness and the therapy concepts of it was the all-inclusive approach that I pride myself in. So that whole model was very much a direct extension of everything that I personally believed in and valued, as far as offering an all-encompassing, fitness, therapy, lifestyle modification model for when people come in, because everybody wants to train themselves into optimal, shape or condition or, performance, but that's only burning the candle for one end. So instead of burning the candles even from two ends with maybe, fitness and nutrition, just take the whole candle and throw it in its own fire and burn it. Yeah, burn it from all sides. Just burn the candle totally, with an all-inclusive approach of, customized but dynamic, very intriguing, fitness programming, whether that's comes in the form of personal training and or supplementation of group fitness classes, customized diet and nutrition. For performance, for weight loss, weight gain, whatever it may be. But not, I could have a twin brother and he and I both have two totally different food preferences, but metabolically, physically, we could respond to the same diet and achieve the same results. But if my speed of life, say I'm married and I'm working 60 hours a week and I have 5 kids, and my twin brother is single, only works, part-time, has all this extra time to himself or whatever, the speed of our lives or our daily grinds are much different. So I could have the same diet that would achieve the same results for both of us, physically, genetically wise, and, starting off at the same place. But if I'm not able to adhere to that diet or that nutrition program or whatever, the same way that he is, because I have so many other hurdles or obstacles to overcome to maintain that, or I'm a terrible cook and there's all this meal prep or whatever, if I'm not able to adhere to it or follow it, then I'm not going to achieve the same result. So the customization to the fitness is very important for the customization of the nutrition, not just, setting calorie goals and macro percentages and targets, but if we're going to do a meal plan, consulting with our clients or our athletes, and they're listening to, hey, what is your ability or inability to meal prep? Do you like to cook? Do you hate to cook? Do you only use a microwave? Are you always on the go? Do you travel a lot? Can you take food with you? Do we need non-perishable items? All those different variables that go into effect of, okay, I need to receive all this information, learn more about you and your ability or inability to do some of these things, and then design from there. Same way, with fitness or whatever. So the fitness meets nutrition, then also meets lifestyle modification, stress management, sleep patterns, hydration. I mean, all those different things that ultimately, if we're in a personal training session, that's 1 hour out of that day, and I may see you anywhere between 2 and 5 times a week. So that's anywhere between 2 and 5 hours I may spend with someone. 5 hours being more on an extreme end. That I'm actually spending and in control of our environment, manipulating these variables. But it's the other 23 hours out of the day that they have to make their own lifestyle decisions. That's ultimately going to make or break, if they achieve their goals or not. So again, Boombox. And I mean Boombox. Boombox was an extension of me, and everywhere I go, I mean, I maintain that all-inclusive approach. But it's the education and awareness that go along with a lot of those things that empower my clients and athletes to make better informed choices for themselves that ultimately get them. We talked about the straight line between A and B earlier, never being a straight line. So the more we can be aware, the better, more informed, educated choices we can make, the more we can straighten that line, from A, where we are now, to B, where we're going.
Thank you, Chris. That's so helpful. Do you, you need to go. I don't want to keep you any longer.
Oh,
yeah.
No, I'm fine. You tell me when we're ready to wrap. I'm okay until 11:30.
Yeah. Rachel, let me know. Do you know, does mental health, does their moods get better when they start getting fit?
As they start seeing what they feel like are the most important things, usually if we're talking about body composition change, body fat percentages, weight loss, weight gain, as soon as they see some of those, metrics, whether it's a scale or a body fat measurement or a circumference measurement, inches lost, things like that, they start to increase their self-worth. I mean, so you start to see results. I mean, just like if your bank account continues to grow, you feel a little bit better about that. So naturally, you receive that endorphin dump and that happiness that comes along with you're starting to see success. But let me answer the question by kind of doing this comparison. I've seen fitness transform people, not just physically but mentally, by discovering a fitness routine and establishing a new sense of self-worth, and confidence, really radiating from the inside out, not just how people perceive them or how they perceive themselves and their mirror image from the outside in, but the transformation from the inside out. And I almost compare it to just the life changing effects that almost discovering religion. Someone who's been on a very dark path, maybe had addictive, personality or addictive traits to drugs or alcohol or gambling, some things like that. And somewhere along the line, something happens, whether it's hitting rock bottom, or they discover religion, or they discover fitness, or they discover something that gives them a renewed sense of purpose, in this life. And they latch onto it, lock into it, and they're able to take, the addictive traits of this addictive personality and focus it on something positive and worth of and worthy of growth and development. So when sometimes people look at us, some of us as fitness professionals, like, you know what, you're obsessed with that, it's like, well, maybe if I wasn't obsessed with this, something from my past would have taken me, on a turn, and I would have been obsessed or addicted to something else. So there are worse things to be obsessed or addicted about. And what's obsessive to someone else is usually a little more of them giving themselves an excuse to not be committed to something more that they have intention to, versus something that that's wrong with you. You know what I mean? I'm obsessed with this, or I'm addicted to this because it is positive. Because I feel like I'm doing something positive for my health. I'm serving as a role model for my clients and my athletes, for my son, for my family. So that it's I do have some addictive traits. And honestly, if I'm going into it, my best friend from grade school that I grew up with all of my life, one of those people that were on the basketball team with me in 8th grade and who I was best friends with all through high school. And then ultimately we went our separate, we stayed in contact, but because of our lifestyles and our decisions, we parted ways in our early 20s, but he died of an overdose when we were 25. It was my best friend all through high school. He was ultimately a John Marshall Scholarship Award winner, had a full ride to Marshall, was a valedictorian of our class. So it wasn't about his ability to be intelligent about things, but he discovered a dark, lifestyle that appealed to him. And he, I guess, felt like he got so deep into it that, that became him. So despite all of his potential and all of his intelligence, and life that he maybe could have had or whatever, he chose to go down a different road or whatever. And, at some point in time, I had to separate myself from that because I recognized that, but I also discovered fitness around that time. Had I not discovered fitness maybe at that time, maybe I'd been right there with him. So again, we all have our own stories. We all things that make us who we are or that influence our decisions. But there's worse things to be obsessed or addicted to. And if you can find an addiction to something positive, whether if it's creativity or it's manifesting or designing, making something in this world that someone, whether it's you or someone else, can appreciate, that's awesome. Whether it's a piece of art, whether it's a beautiful written piece of music, whether it's designing fitness programming for people in need who maybe have a lesser knowledge or seeking someone to your professional help to help them design, then I think that's time well spent.
Thank you for sharing about your friend, and I'm very sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, it's something that's when it ties in, it's relevant to here because he should be here too, with all those things. But the point is, I mean, I think we all have things that we're compulsive or addicted or obsessed, with or could be. But again, with that, we acknowledge that, we control what we control, and we try to find that balance. So even though I'm addicted to fitness and wellness, and there's other things that I still also have passions about, I've got to make time for those things too.
Yeah. I love how you talked about watching people change, in your career from the inside out. And I think people forget that physical fitness journey, it feels good to set a goal and reach it, to hold yourself accountable and keep promises to yourself, right? That boosts our self-esteem and our confidence so much. People forget about that aspect of fitness, I think.
Yeah, and that's ultimately at its core, that's what it is. That's what I think life is. Yeah, and that's what is great about, you know, setting goals and achieving them in fitness and wellness and your own, you know, fitness journey, how it runs parallel with our lives and stuff too. So if we can prove that to ourselves that, hey, we can set this goal, and we went through the trials and tribulations of, you know, of trying to straighten that line as much as possible and achieve that goal and get from A to B, we can then apply that that life lesson learned within fitness and wellness in our own journey to our own lives. So if we want to, you know, achieve the next level or climb the ladder, you know, in your job and your work environment or whatever, or you're seeking, you know, a family or a relationship, or you're seeking to get into some other realm. I mean, you're wanting to dive into real estate, or I mean, whatever it may be, you can still apply that to so many different aspects of life. And that's why there's so many different parallels in fitness to how we apply it to our life, and vice versa as well. But yeah, it's all about goal setting and achieving those things, proving to yourself, holding yourself accountable, and then, you know, reveling in the accomplishment of it, the endorphin dump, the self-worth, the self-achievement, the self-respect that you gain from all that. And then, you know, once you achieve that goal, it's like, okay, what are we going to do next? You know, bigger, better.
Yeah.
And that's the exciting part.
Yeah. It can snowball or have a domino effect in a positive way.
Very
Absolutely.
much. Thank you so much, Chris. We'll wrap it up. So I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to join Rachel and I for our podcast. We so appreciate. How does someone reach you, or do you even have any slots open for our listeners if they want to gain fitness and nutrition? How do they reach you?
Yeah, so I'm always accessible. At best, my live personal training availability is limited or non-existent, just depending on getting in. But that said, I'm always available. My updated new website is coming available. It will be relaunched at the beginning of May. That's chrislanefitness.com. My social media, my Instagram, I'm very accessible and active on at Coach Chris Lane. Again, that's on Instagram. On Facebook as well. The only thing I'm not on is Twitter. It's tough for me to keep up with everything else. But again, through email, through direct message, through Facebook message, through text message, you know, I receive all these different inquiries, and again, I'll always remain humbled and flattered, you know, when people reach out to me, you know, to gauge my expertise. I do quite a bit of online virtual training as well. So that's allowed me to, even though if I can't see someone, you know, live, even if they live in this area, because I have so many clients, you know, abroad, nationally, internationally, you know, but I pride myself in giving them not just, you know, people reach out, hey, Chris, I need a program for this or for that. You know, I use an online training app with exercise descriptions, video demonstrations, sets, reps, percentages. It's really an all-inclusive virtual training experience. Not just say, hey, here's the recipe, you know, go bake the cake, but, you know, here's me, you know, in a video beside you doing those things. So whether it's fitness, again, nutrition, lifestyle modification, I pride myself in offering those, you know, an all-inclusive variety, both live and virtually online, you know, based on whatever the need is for that individual client or athlete, and based on the geographical location. So very accessible, regardless if I'm available for live training. But, you know, always interested, you know, first come, first serve, reach out, ask, hey, Chris, do you have this availability? When do you see this availability maybe coming open? And I'll put them on my waiting list. And when I have cancellations, I'll message people, and it's a first come, first serve. Hey, I have an 8 a.m. open on this day, you know, who wants it?
Chris has a waiting list like you and I, Rachel.
Yeah.
It's a good problem, Chris. It's a good problem you have.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, and it's such a blessing to have so many people wanting to work with me. And I offer some really awesome ways to partner or group up if you have a small group of similar or like-minded goals, and availability. Ultimately, it dials down to availability for live training. But that gives me an opportunity to see more people in less amount of time, and then be able to save on the session rate and allow me to make my session rate as well if they're interested in partnering up or grouping up.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate you joining us for True Vine Talks, and we look forward to seeing you around town working out and helping others.
Absolutely. It's been so much fun. Thanks for inviting me. You all have a great weekend.
All right.
Thanks.